Thanks, Tina. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to talk about mistakes because, in all my consults that I do, one of the most common things that we come across are people's, the amount of guilt that people hold on. You can have the best medicine in the world, you can have the best workouts, the best trainers, the best nutritionists. But if you are carrying past baggage or present baggage because of the mistakes you make and guilt, you need to understand that that is your biggest obstacle. There is no pill, there is no medicine, there is no food that can take away the guilt of making mistakes. But there is a possible solution: inner work. We have to do our own work to overcome and recover from mistakes. So today we're going to break it down. It's not going to be a very long session because it's really to the point and it only talks about, the action that we're going to take post this call today to help us recover from mistakes. Number one, okay, if you think you've never ever made a mistake in your life, then you can get off the call right now because no such person really exists. We all have to understand that everyone has made a mistake in their life. There are some people who hold on to it. They hold on to the past and it doesn't allow them to live in the present or even plan their future because they're constantly holding on to the guilt from that mistake. There are some people who make small mistakes, some people who make big mistakes. The intensity of every mistake will differ from person to person. Of course, some mistakes will come from the guilt of making the mistake, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing as long as we can learn from it. Because if there is no guilt, then we don't think we're wrong and we go on repeating the same mistake over and over again. So there's the good and bad of everything. But being stuck in a mistake that you've made and being stuck in the guilt of it is actually, it becomes our fault, okay, that we're stuck there. We can't blame anyone but ourselves. And there is a lot that you can do to get out of it. So number one, okay, in order to learn in life, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. A child makes the mistake of falling off the cycle, okay, and through that mistake, he or she learns balance, he or she learns how to ask for help, and eventually they learn to cycle. We all make mistakes as kids. If we don't, there's no way we're going to learn. We make mistakes in school. We get marked down on certain subjects, okay, to teach us that we have to either understand it better or study a little bit more, so it makes us better at what we do. We make mistakes in relationships, we make mistakes at work, we make mistakes with our money, we make mistakes in so many things because we're not perfect. When you were born, okay, no one gave you a lesson on how to live life. Okay, get that very clear. There are some people who try to act good and perfect all the time, and these are actually the most miserable people because they think they're supposed to be good all the time and they're supposed to be perfect all the time. But like I said, a lot of people, okay, don't understand that when you are born, you are not born knowing how to live life. We learn it along the way, which means we are going to make mistakes. We are 100% going to be making mistakes. And the sooner we realize that and we're okay with it, a lot of that guilt disappears. Take a perfectionist who always thinks that he or she has to be perfect, look perfect, dress perfect, act perfect, talk perfect. Everything has to be perfect. They have the most boring lives and they have the most stress and they're the most miserable people. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm saying it in a way that you need to understand because nothing in life can be perfect. You can never be perfect. Okay, you can't think you have the perfect skin. You can't think you have the perfect body because when you look around, you find so many other people with more perfect bodies and perfect skin than you. It's okay if someone looks better than you. You can't think that you need to be perfect and the best in class. Students who are pressurized by their parents to be the best, they may end up being all the best because of the amount of pressure that they're put through. They may get that. But they're the most unhappiest teenagers and kids who grow up into unhappy adults because their childhood has been robbed. They have been taught to think that perfection is everything. And when they step out into the real world and realize it isn't that way, they crumble, emotionally crumble. You can be effective, you can try to be good, you can strive to be the best, but forget about perfection. It doesn't exist in the real world. Look at nature. Nature isn't perfect. Nature isn't perfect too. No religion is perfect. If every religion was perfect, people wouldn't be fighting in the name of religion. People wouldn't be behaving fanatically in the name of religion. Nothing is perfect. It is absolutely okay. So number one, what you need to understand is we learn through our mistakes. So you are going to make mistakes today. I am going to make mistakes today. I'm going to make more mistakes tomorrow, day after, and whatever. And that's how we learn. People think that failure is the opposite of success, but that's not true. Failure is a part of success. Please understand that. There is no such thing as failure. There is something called failure to learn from your mistakes. That's what it is. But there is no such thing as failure being the opposite of success. Most of the successful people in the world today are successful because they made mistakes, but they learned from their mistakes. So very, very important. Failure is part of your life. Failure is part of you learning from your mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you can't learn. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then it's different. You continue making the same mistakes over and over again, and you stay stuck in the same place in your relationships, in life, in your career, in your studies, or whatever it is. When we make a mistake, it means it's trying to teach us something. Okay? Like Edison says, I wrote down this quote. It's very, very powerful. Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail 1,000 times to make a light bulb. He took over 1,000 times to make a light bulb, but he said, I didn't fail at that. I succeeded in learning what not to do. Now, you see, that's just a difference in mindset. We keep failing, we keep making mistakes, and we keep victimizing ourselves and labeling ourselves. I'm horrible, I'm stupid, I'm not worth it, I'm so dumb. My parents were right, I'm not good at this. I should have just become this or become that, or worked in a shop or worked in whatever and stuff like that. We demean ourselves, we have negative self-talk. But you can look at it a different way. Okay, and we're going to learn today how to reverse and recover from the mistakes that we make. Because like I said, all of us have made mistakes. Every single one of us have made mistakes. Some small, some large. And we have to deal with the consequences of it. That's life, okay? No one escapes that. We are responsible to deal with the consequences of everything that we do, everything that we say. If I say something wrong today, okay, it doesn't matter who Luke is. Okay, I have to face the consequences of the wrong words I use. I have to face and be responsible for the consequences of my actions, of what I do, my behavior, all of that stuff. Know that. You can't escape that responsibility. So right now, everything that you say every day, everything that you do, everything that you choose, know that. So that's why when you know this, you choose your words and your behavior more carefully. You choose your action more carefully. That you are responsible for the consequences of what you do, what you say, what you decide, and what you choose in life. So that acts as a little motivation for us to be mindful and to live consciously with awareness about what we want to say, do, behave, and everything else. Remember one thing, we have all heard this before from the Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility. Now let's flip that on its head and also know that with great responsibility comes great power. The mistakes we make, they give us the power and the insights to make things better. Now think of all the mistakes you made. Don't think of all of them. Okay, there may be a lot. Okay, for me at least. Think of one or two mistakes that you've made. All right? You may be dealing with the guilt, the emotions of it, but now, what can you learn from those mistakes? Every mistake teaches us something about ourselves and even the other person. Even the other person. It doesn't always have to be you. You could have made a mistake because of someone else as well. But you made the mistake, you have to deal with the consequences. It's your responsibility. But what can you learn from it? That is the beauty of mistakes. Your mistakes can either make you act like an anchor and keep you in the past, can keep that emotional baggage getting heavier and heavier on you day by day, or we can take that baggage off and learn from the mistake and no longer see it as a mistake. Remember, the first time is a mistake, the second time is a choice. If you want to repeat that mistake the second time, that's a choice. And like I said, you've got to bear the responsibility of the consequences and everything else. Okay? So the number one thing, okay, when we've made mistakes and we're trying to recover from mistakes, acknowledge that you are human. Yes, it still maybe be your fault. You still got to bear the responsibility of it. But acknowledge that you're human, and every single human makes mistakes. Whether they're famous, whether they're rich, no matter who they are, they have made mistakes. And everyone has their own tools to recover from mistakes. So number one, acknowledge that you are human. Do not deny the mistakes you have made. It is very easy for us to blame other people, complain, justify, to feel better for a while. But deep inside, you still know that you've made the mistake. So number one, acknowledge you're human. It's okay to make mistakes, and you will make more mistakes. Number two, don't deny the mistake that you've made. If you've made it, you've made it. Remember, what you resist will constantly persist. And you'll just be fighting with it and defending your mistake all the time. You'll be robbing yourself of emotional energy, and nothing gets better for you, the other person, the situation, nothing. So stop defending your mistakes. Take responsibility for it, okay? Because you've made the mistake. Maybe the other person provoked you. Maybe you were put into that situation. Maybe you had to do what you had to do. It is still your responsibility because you made the mistake. We can go through blaming people and saying, because of you, I did this. Because of you, I lied. Because you don't give me this, I did this. It's all okay, but you still got to take responsibility for the mistake that you made. So stop denying it. The moment you stop resisting it, it will stop persisting. Remember, you can keep fighting for your limitations. All of your limitations, you can fight for them. But what do you get by fighting for your limitations? What do I mean by limitations? You can say, oh, I made this mistake, but it was because of you. Oh, yes, I didn't grow at work because it was of me not getting enough of training. Oh, my boss is biased. Oh, this, oh, that, whatever. But number one, you didn't get the promotion. By saying this and blaming and complaining, you're just fighting for your limitations. Now, what happens when you fight for your limitations? You get to keep your limitations. Because you fight for them, you get to keep it. Now, what happens when you keep your limitations? You get limited by it. You can never improve. You never get better. You stay stuck. And because you're stuck, you now have limitations. You now have denial. What's the residue? Guilt, resentment, bitterness, anger. You know, all of this rusts you from inside, and you never, never get better. It's cause and effect. Okay, the whole world could be wrong, but you did something wrong. Okay, no matter what, you were provoked, you were pushed into a corner, but you made the mistake. Okay, yes, you're right. Someone provoked you. You are absolutely right, but you made the mistake. The sooner you stop denying it, the sooner you stop fighting for your limitations, justification, blaming, and complaining, then you can move into action. Now, what can I learn from this mistake? Okay? Before we come to the learning part, number two, apologize. You made a mistake. Apologize truly. Own the mistake. Okay? Don't apologize like, you know, I'm truly sorry I did this, but you should know it was because I was provoked because I did this. No. Apologize truly because you own it. You own the mistake. You don't have to put justifications in your apology. You truly apologize from your heart. Keep it brief. Keep it specific, sincere, own it, mean it. Another person knows and can feel your sincerity through the energy of how you apologize. So acknowledge and apologize. Take responsibility. Own it. It's your mistake. Take responsibility. Also, forgive yourself. Apologize to yourself. It's called self-compassion. Today's studies in self-compassion shows us how we evolve. But if we constantly punish ourselves, if we constantly put ourselves down, we do not evolve, we don't grow, and we don't treat people any better. Because if we can't be self-compassionate to ourselves, there is no way that you can be compassionate to anyone around you. If you can't be kind to yourself, you can't be kind to someone else. Maybe you think you are, you're faking it. You still feel miserable. When you're truly kind to someone, you will feel fulfilled. You won't feel empty in your heart. So don't beat yourself up. You made a mistake, you missed your workout today. Don't beat yourself up. Don't punish yourself. You overate, you had a dessert, you were not supposed to have a dessert, you did that. Don't beat yourself up. Don't punish yourself with a more stricter diet. That shows that you lack self-compassion. And self-compassion doesn't work for any aspect of our life. It doesn't make us better people. It makes us feel more and more guilty because we're punishing ourselves more and more. Okay, you keep making the mistake 5 times in a row, maybe you need a little bit of punishment, okay? But with self-compassion. So apologize to yourself. Forgive yourself. You got to forgive yourself from making that mistake. Now you're making the mistake 10 times in a row, then you're obviously, you know, forgiving yourself isn't really working for you. You need help, okay? But forgive yourself from that mistake. You know, being kind to yourself helps us to be kind to other people. Being compassionate to ourselves helps us to be compassionate to other people. By punishing yourself, you get nothing, absolutely nothing in life. You don't evolve, you don't get better at anything. Admit your mistake. Now let's talk about the beautiful part of mistakes. Learning from it. There is a gift in every mistake you make, no matter how bad it is. There is a gift. That gift, okay, can be perceived very, very differently, okay? You can call it a silver lining. There's a silver lining in every mistake that you make, okay? You need to find out, sit back with those mistakes, okay? And you learn so much, okay? If I reacted in anger, it's my mistake. But what can I learn from this? What triggers me to get angry? What is the environment around me when I get angry? Okay, what do I have to learn from this? Are there certain words that people say? Are there things they bring up? Is there a particular truth that makes me angry in what they say? You know, there's so much that you can learn once you put the ego and pride aside. What do you learn from the other person as well? That this person manipulates me, uses tactics. They know my buttons. They push my buttons to get a reaction out of me. So then we divert from the actual context of the subject to Luke's anger or Luke's whatever. So, you know, you learn from the other person as well, and you learn a lot from yourself. So what do I need to do if I want to get better? Should I practice pausing before I speak? Should I just learn to keep my mouth shut until I get my thoughts in order before I respond? Okay, even if someone's provoking me, I can just not give an answer at that point. I just listen and say, I'll get back to you, and go cool down and come back with a very rational, excellent answer without you losing your cool. There is so much you get to learn from your mistake. You made a mistake in your relationship, for example. You get to learn a lot about yourself. Why am I weak? Why did I make this mistake? Why did I say those words? Why did I hurt this person? Why did I do this? You also get to learn about the other person. What about the other person is making me lie? What about the other person is making me do things that I'm not supposed to do or say things that I'm not supposed to say? You get to learn a lot. Yourself and the other side, yourself and the situation and the environment around you. So if you're always angry in a city and you're never angry living in in a beach area, what is it trying to teach you? Maybe you are that person. Maybe city life doesn't suit you. Is there something you can do? Is there a new job you can get, work from home, so you can move out of this environment that makes you angry all the time? So you can learn so many things. You learn about boundaries. You learn that I've not drawn my boundaries, so people cross my boundaries. Is it their fault? No, it's my fault. I've not drawn my boundaries, so let me draw my boundaries. I've learned from it. I've taken a learning and put it into an action. You also learn, have you crossed your boundaries with someone else? And that's why the other person has retaliated with you or has said something angry to you or has hurt you. So again, you can learn. You can learn so many things about boundaries. You can learn so many things about, like, let's say, for example, you made a mistake with your work. You forgot to submit something. You didn't meet your targets. What can you learn? It doesn't make you a bad person. Maybe you've been multitasking too much. Maybe you've taken more on your plate than you can handle. Okay, because you're just so busy comparing your life with everyone. You think you can also do everything, but that's not you. So you learn something about yourself. Okay, I had a mother who consulted with me a couple of days ago, and she was telling me, Luke, I just feel guilty all the time. I'm a working mom. I don't spend time with my kids. My kids keep saying that your work is more important. I'm so guilty. I'm so guilty. And she's saying, I'm living with guilt in this whole mistake that I've made. What have I chosen? Am I doing the right thing? So I asked her, what do you learn from this? What do you learn from this guilt? So she said, I learned that I want to spend more time with my kids. At the same time, I want to have a career. Okay. So we broke it down, and the learnings finally came down to an action that she has to take. Maybe when she comes home, she shuts off from work completely. So she gives her kids undivided attention. Till now, she was coming home and opening her phone and her laptop and doing all of that stuff. And she also learned that she can speak to her children and tell them, I am here for you. You are more important than me. These 3 hours in a day, I give you quality time, no phone, no nothing, whatever. And the kids are happy as well. So you see, she learned. She used guilt and a mistake to learn something from it. So today, she is spending quality time with the kids, and she's still working. It was a win-win situation. Otherwise, she could have beaten herself up with guilt, made that decision of giving up her job and being with her kids and feeling unhappy and miserable because she's not doing what her authentic truth is. So every mistake has a lesson. Now remember, a mistake is supposed to hurt us and pain us. If it doesn't pinch us, we'll never remember it. We'll never remember it. So sometimes it's okay to go through that pain of making the mistake. Sometimes you got to go through shame. We need to go through humility. We need to feel that guilt of what we've done. Embrace it. Face it. Just don't die in it. Don't wallow in it. Don't let it become your life. That pinch is a reminder for us not to make the same mistake again, so we can learn from that. Now, the final point when it comes to mistakes is don't repeat it. If you truly learn from it, you will not repeat the mistake. Like I said, the first time is a mistake. The second time is a choice. You got to take responsibility for the consequence. Like they say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Insanity is eating the same food over and over again and expecting to lose weight. You've got to do different things to get different results. So if you're doing the same things that made you make the mistake the same time, guess what? You are automatically going to make the same mistake over and over again. So sometimes we got to remember the mistakes. It's got to hurt us a little bit, but don't get attached to the emotional negative feeling of guilt and shame and all of that stuff. You got to rise above your mistake, above your mistake. Like I said, everyone makes mistakes. Some people will use your mistake to shame you and humiliate you and all of that stuff. But those are manipulative people, people who use tactics. They hit your buttons. Be aware of that. It doesn't define you. It does not define you again and again. So your homework is very simple. Think about the mistakes that you made that's weighing you down. I wrote something down that I wanted to read you. Oh yeah, if you are living in the past because of your mistakes, if you are held in your past because of your mistakes, you are dying in the present. You are always stuck looking behind at the mistake. The guilt keeps knocking on your shoulder, tapping on your shoulder, and you keep looking behind in life. But you have to live for today. You have to be leaving your legacy, creating your legacy for tomorrow by living today. You cannot live today if your past mistakes are pulling you down. So at some point, we got to rise above the shame. We got to rise above the guilt and all of that stuff. And we have to put our foot down, learn from these mistakes and go out there, not caring what people say, what people think. Yes, I made a mistake. I'm truly sorry about the mistake. I own full responsibility for it. I'm sorry. That's it. The only thing a person can do is remind you 10 times about your mistake. Okay? Listen the first time. You got to bear the consequence of what you did. After that, you don't have to accept it anymore. You got to move on with your life. Now, the other person has to learn how to detach or make choices that they want to make, but they cannot go on emotionally blackmailing you an entire lifetime. So remember that as well. Because like you, they've also made other mistakes as well. So that's how we learn forgiveness and self-compassion and offering compassion to other people. This is what we do when it comes to mistakes. So I'm just going to recap quickly. Like I said, this is a short call today. Number one, making mistakes, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Okay? Failure to learn from our mistakes, that is failure. Failure because we keep repeating the mistakes, that is failure. When you make mistakes, what feedback can you get from the situation? Learn to acknowledge, take responsibility, own it, apologize from your heart. Put the mistake behind you. Sit down. What can I learn from this mistake about myself? What can I learn about the other person? If you have a person in your life who's going to constantly provoke you to say things, make mistakes, maybe you don't need that person in your life anymore. You got to change your environment sometimes. Okay, you got to get out of the corner that you're pushed in. So you got to make that choice as well. Okay, like I said, you can learn for yourself and what is the mistake teaching you about the other person as well. About the other person as well. So you can learn from that, apologize, learn from your mistake. Don't repeat it over and over again. And sometimes when the mistake reminds you, okay, look at it in a positive way. It reminds you, it pinches you, it gives you a little bit of guilt to remind you and keep you on the path of not making that mistake again. So please never let your mistakes hold you down. Never let your mistakes be your limitations in life. You have to decide today to rise above your mistakes. And like I said, right now, all the mistakes that you've made, you got to write it down. You got to write your mistakes down. Learn from it. That gives you the courage. That gives you the courage to step out into the world, okay, and give it back to the people who keep using mistakes, your mistakes, against you. Don't give it back if you're constantly making the same mistake. You're wrong. But if you're learning and you've evolved from it, no one should ever use your past or your mistakes for you right now. Either you need to make a decision to change or they need to make a decision to accept you. Have a great evening, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.